another Zelda podcast. My name is Kady Roberts, and I'm here with David Geisler.
Hey, Kady, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited and smiley right now.
Yeah, you are. Wow, I can hear it in your voice. That's actually a note that I get in voiceover class often is to, while I'm doing my corporate stuff, is to smile a little more. Because I think sometimes I kind of bring it into this space.
Yeah.
And it has to be a little bit more in this space.
See, you were in class today that I get told a lot to bring it back.
Oh, yeah.
I smile too much and I get too giggly. And then they're like, we're doing a medical script.
And you're like, this is great.
I'm like, these side effects could cause you to die. So.
And I'm like, these side effects will cause you to die. And then there's no you too can also save a life, and no one cares because it's just like museum voice is what Deb always says to me. But anyway.
But yeah, so
we had a cool we don't have to talk about this. We had it doesn't matter. Let's keep going. I was going to talk about class today. No, we just had a guest. We had a guest in class.
We did have a guest in class. She was lovely. So yeah, David, we're here today. Little Schrodinger, he's chilling on the desk right now, purring up a storm. So if you hear a little bit of cat purrs, you probably won't, but he's being really cute.
He is.
So today we're going to be talking about monsters, more specifically our favorite monsters. Which every time we do a favorites episode, in my brain I always make it into a top 10. I think it's because I'm so list oriented that I'm like, I need an order to talk in though.
I will tell you, when I usually take my notes digitally, but I've been starting to do pencil notes. And so what I do with the favorites is I just kind of almost like a Venn diagram. I just write the different creatures or critters or names and anywhere on the page. And I guess you could do that with Freeform on your phone as well, the app. But that helps me not make it a list.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might just have you start with your first favorite monster, and then I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of this one, and then go
if you want to jump
there.
to another one or whatever, that's kind of how we do it.
But before we do favorite monsters, I know you all are so excited to hear about us ramble on about Zelda monsters. Let's do some listener feedback.
I think that'd be great. I'll hand it over to you to do the first one here. But I also wanted to point out, our listeners, our previous episode, we talked about how the next episode was going to be my episode with Andy, and you and I were going to be getting together to do this. We did a last minute pivot and decided we swapped those episodes. So they just heard, or whatever, 2 weeks ago, just heard our Zelda Wii U episode. And we did it because, it's just that time of year right now. It's kind of the spooky time of year. And I thought if this episode came out a little bit before Halloween itself, Halloween of 2023, it'd be kind of fun.
I was going to say, remind me, what exact date in October is this coming out? Do you remember?
Was it the 21st
The 21st? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm curious, because depending, then perhaps this week I will not be in Chicago because I will be down in Florida. My brother is graduating from Navy stuff, and we're going to go down to Florida and go to Universal Horror Nights.
That's
which
cool.
Is so exciting because I've never been. I've gotten a lot better, but I was a huge scaredy cat growing up. And so my first time into a haunted house was 2 years ago.
I'm not. I tried to be, but I'm not a fan of haunted houses as a walker througher.
Yeah.
But designing them is a ton of fun.
Yeah. So I just started getting into horror movies and stuff 2 years ago, and now I'm just throwing myself into the deep end.
Oof.
So we'll see how it goes.
Well, that might apply. I've got a few horrific monsters tonight, honestly.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool if they did a Zelda haunted house.
That would be cool. I concur.
I don't know how scary it would be, but it'd be pretty cool.
There's some pretty scary characters in the Zelda games.
All I'm saying is I'm waiting for Nintendo World to not be Mario World. I'm ready for it to be Nintendo World with Zelda and Kirby and Metroid and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There is, every once in a while, there's a little hint of a Zelda area, be it either at Universal Studios or at any of the Nintendo Worlds. And it feels like it's probably inevitable, but it also feels like it's probably still 6 or 7 years away.
Yeah. That's okay.
We'll be in season 14, but we'll be the first ones there.
You know what? The day it happens, we'll go down and we'll do a vlog and put it on the YouTube.
Yeah, sure. Well, by then, hopefully, we can be like, hey, Universal, let us come check out your park.
We can get it for free and get our little fast passes.
So I did look it up. It's actually October 19th is when this episode's coming out.
Okay. So yeah, I'll be there over at Halloween. So
the first listener feedback we have, I'm just looking real quick, is actually a message on Patreon from one of our patrons.
Ooh, Patreon. Jordan Stoltz, I believe, commented on your post. Enjoyed the comments about gaming with your kids. 32, I think.
Oh, pardon me. Let me set up a little bit of context.
Absolutely, yes.
This is the episode that I did with Kevin Goodwin where we talked about gaming through the years. We talked about us beginning to game, and then now he's gaming with his kids, and he's watching them play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom the same way he played Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past. And so this is a comment to that
That's
episode.
heartwarming.
It was actually an awesome episode. It was really cool to do.
So it says, read the comments about gaming with your kids. 32, I think, year old dad here. I love that. That's such a thing. My dad also does that all the time, where he's like, I think I'm this age, but I can't remember.
I mean, I forget my age once in a while.
With 2-year-old and 4-month-old sons. I absolutely cannot wait for them to reach the age where they can play Ocarina of Time. Part of me feels like it's an essential gaming experience, and I've joked with my wife about making them finish Ocarina of Time before they can have whatever the gaming system of the day is.
Oh, wow.
That's funny. Only partially kidding, smiley face. Really enjoy this show. Became a Patreon yesterday, since I've pretty much listened to every episode now, and if that's not worth a few bucks, then I don't know what is. Cheers. Thank you so much, Jordan.
That's
that is
wonderful.
So sweet.
Jordan, thank you. Yeah, maybe you're hearing this right now as our early release episode on the White Sword tier. I actually have to check back in on which one he's in. But if you're in Magical Sword, we're literally waving to you right now on the video. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon, Jordan, and for the message there. Kids playing Ocarina, I get it, because I really want my nieces and nephews to play Ocarina, but it isn't, because it's an older game and the mechanics are a little less forgiving than, say, Twilight Princess or Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. That's not to say that those games are easier, because you're definitely pushing 3 buttons to do one thing sometimes on Tears of the Kingdom. But Ocarina of Time, all of those older Zelda games, sometimes you have to kind of play them the way they want to be played.
Yeah.
Which does not speak to how you play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And so I've also thought about, like, oh man, when does my nephew play Ocarina? Like, when do I actually introduce my 8-year-old nephew to that right now?
Yeah.
I have a 12-year-old niece that I'm kind of like, maybe, but
I was going to say, she seems like she'd be a
12,
good age for
12,
it.
she could be doing it, yeah. Let's move on to the next.
What?
Moving on to the next listener feedback. This is real. It is a Apple Podcast review, 5-star review. The title is Greenheart, 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 Greenheart by SVHJDVMK. Thank you so much for the support, SVHJDVMK. Let me read said review.
Yeah, please do.
I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this. I think I'm going to do it. Greenheart, 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 Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, 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 Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, 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 Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, 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 Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart. And lastly, Greenheart, Greenheart. Greenheart, 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 Greenheart.
She makes a really good point. I hadn't thought about that before.
That's a lot of AZP
Green
love.
Heart.
I love it. Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what we have to say to that? Greenheart.
Greenheart.
Greenheart. SVHJDVMK. That's great. I mean, obviously, this person's playing with the whole, like, how we've kind of adopted the green heart emoji as our AZP love.
It's silly, but that's also really cute.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the probably 25 green hearts that are here and the 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
You know, that's all that matters is the green heart love and that good old review.
We got another one.
we got
another one. It's an Apple Podcast review, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, yes, please.
5-star review.
5-star review by Oreo Syrup, entitled "The Best Zelda Podcast Out There." A very good podcast.
Thank you for the review.
Thank you for the review. Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. If you listen to the episode we had recorded together before this, you were saying, "What is Breath of the Wild?" And I said, "A game." So I'm right there with you. A game and a good podcast.
Oreo Syrup, that's so good. That's so succinct that I might have to add it on the pull quotes that are on our website. Honestly,
that would be really good. If you do like on the website and it's like one of those like doctors give it 4 out of 5. It's just like people say a very good podcast.
We have 3 poll quotes on our site right now that go through. So we have about 9 or 10 different quotes from different reviews on Apple Podcasts that I have on our site. I might just throw that one in. Throw it in there in the mix.
Yes, please.
So that people can just find it. But from Oreo Syrup. Well, this one's a little bit bigger. Another Apple Podcast review. This wasn't planned to have them all be Apple Podcast reviews, but of course we always appreciate a review, a 5-star review, any kind of review. Always helps with the algorithm on Apple Podcasts for us to get a little bit more exposure. And so I've said it before, but one of the best ways to support the show, if you're not like on Patreon or doing any kind of buying merch or anything, you just want to like help us out a little, is by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps so much with our exposure, and that's awesome. So here we go. El Meso, ELMEASO, leaves a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. And the title is Love Da Show. DA. Love the show.
Nice.
All right. Oh, this person signed the ends with Miles. So Miles says, hi. I've literally never read this before. Hi, my name is. Hi, my name is. Hi, my name is. Hi, my name is. Miles. My name is Miles. I am 12, and I have listened to you guys for 3 years. I really want you to shout me out. Well, it's happening, Miles. So far, I have only played Breath of the Wild, but I got bored and restarted it. And right as I did, 3 days later, I got the DLCs for my birthday. So now I have to play it all again. I am also playing the original Legend of Zelda with my mom. The original, like maybe the Nintendo one. Maybe it's on Nintendo Switch Online. And I was so inspired by you that I am currently starting my own podcast called The Super Podcast.
Yes.
I think David is so inspiring for me so much for standing up and dealing with his anxiety. And I too have problems with anxiety. Keep up the amazing work. Miles, oh my goodness.
Miles,
what an amazing
we have to listen to it now. Super podcast. If you're on the Discord, please post about it and everyone upload that so we can see it. Post your link. Also, David, did you know what he was referencing at the beginning?
I think that's 8 Mile with Eminem in it, right? The movie.
Oh, I was thinking he was referencing Slim Shady.
Oh, that's Eminem too. Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Chicka Chicka Slim Shady.
Oh, is that how it goes?
Yeah.
I see. I think I remember that song coming out. Well, that's awesome, Miles. 12. I earlier in the show, earlier seasons of the show, I did speak to having some anxiety issues at times in my life, and that's awesome. There was even another listener that gave us a message that said that they had some issues with anxiety, so they would literally listen to AZP while they like walked around their town in Sweden to like deal with anxiety. So cool. This is not a platform for that in any way, shape, or form, but because it's been expressed just a touch, I'm happy that other people are also finding some peace as well, and that's awesome. Keep up the amazing work. Well, that's cool, Miles. Can't wait to listen to Super Podcast.
Yes, I'm very excited, Miles. And also, like David said, I hope everything's going well with your anxiety. I also struggle with anxiety a lot. I've been getting a lot better in recent years, but know that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and I think podcasting is a really good route to go if you do have anxiety, because hey, if you make a mistake, you can always edit it out.
I was so nervous about doing our in-booth recording and voiceover class this morning that when Arison was going, the gentleman who went before me, I had to actually do a breathing exercise because I was almost ramping up into a panic attack.
See, that's the thing. I have found that I have to make myself go first, because otherwise I stew and I panic. So I always am trying to be like the first one to go, or I'll like convince myself that I'm not nervous. I do that a lot with theater, where I'll literally be shaking and I'm like, I'm not nervous. What? I'm like excited. I'm shaking because I'm excited.
I have to do a thing in theater before a show where I just literally can't stop walking for about 15 minutes before the show. I'm backstage. I'm going back and forth. I used to perform at a theater that was kind of like, it was a peninsula stage. What is that actually called? I don't know, whatever. It was a thrust stage or whatever.
Okay.
And so you could walk underneath the audience behind it, and you could walk through proper backstage behind the proscenium. And I would just do laps at this theater. It was the Racine Theater Guild, actually. And that's actually where Kate and I developed Another Zelda podcast, because we were in a show at that theater. And she also used to have to walk because she'd have like a little bit of tenseness.
I was always one that had to walk around. I remember my first like bigger show that I had done when I was like 13. I went into audition and I literally like was so nervous. I forgot all the words, and all the judges, all the casting directors were super nice because I was young, but I was literally like crying and I was like having a whole thing. But it turned around because I got called back and I felt much more confident with the dancing section, and I ended up getting into the play anyway. So even if you break down into tears and forget every word, things can still go right. So don't worry.
Certainly, absolutely. So getting back into our spooky states here.
Yeah.
We're doing favorite monsters. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe I'm misremembering, but when we had our production meeting about this, was this your idea, this topic?
I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah, I was really excited about the thought of doing favorite monsters. And not to toot my own horn, but I have a couple that aren't from Breath of the Wild or Tears on my list this time.
Well, so look at you legacy.
I'm expanding my it's gonna be so cool, and then I forgot the word.
Your lexicon?
My lexicon. I was
expanding your
my lexicon. Yes.
One of the things, I'll speak to our listeners real quick. Behind the scenes, you and I have been putting together many shows for the next, this season and even the next season, as far as like planning out like our review episodes. Mm-hmm. And one of the most exciting things about the next year and a half of AZP for me is the fact that we're going to revisit some games and do proper review episodes of them. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be in this. The context will be that it will be you playing them for the first time, even though they're the older games.
Yes. I am halfway through Skyward Sword right now, still playing it. I'm having a blast. I love Skyward Sword. And then I think the other one that we had for me was
I think we're going to take
Ocarina.
It easy. Well, Ocarina's in there. I really want you to do a proper Ocarina play. And I think you decided to do it on your 3DS, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'll play it probably original and maybe on the NOS or NSO or something like that. But it'll be your first time playing it. I can't wait. And then we got to throw a Link's Awakening in there.
Yeah, which I do have the is it remake, remaster?
I think it's a remake, but
I have the
it's
remake
very
on
accurate.
my Switch.
And the second, I don't even know if probably this is a season 7 thing, but for me personally, and it's okay if you have different opinions about the game, but I will give you my Wii U so that you can play Twilight Princess HD for 4 months or whatever.
I feel like love that.
And I think actually I remember from the production meeting now that we had a few weeks ago, I was pushing for Twilight Princess, but then I realized because it's kind of a spiritual successor to Ocarina in many ways, you absolutely should play Ocarina first.
Yeah, because I was originally wanting to play Twilight the most out of anything.
Oh, that's where it came from. Yeah. You mentioned it in the meeting.
And then you were like, well, okay, I'll play this one first, which I wanted to play Ocarina too, because when we went to Zelda Dungeon, it was my first time ever seeing Ocarina. They were playing it on like...
Kady, the first time ever seen it like in action, like on a screen?
Ever seeing it. I had never seen it. Like, I went down there and they were playing it, and I was like, what is he playing? Like, what game is this? And they're like, it's Ocarina.
They're like, it's the Bible?
Yeah, they're like, it's Ocarina. Not literally, because everyone there was super nice, which I was nervous going about, because I was like, oh, these people and everything about Zelda. But they were very, very sweet. And I watched it, and I was like, this is the coolest game ever. I want to play this so bad.
I think one of the most special things about being a Zelda fan, a Legend of Zelda fan, is that when you do meet a fan that's been introduced to the series with the more recent games, at least all the fans and the fandom that I've encountered, usually it's not like, oh, you haven't played that game. Yeah. It's more like, oh my gosh, there's so much more that you got to try. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That was like my whole time there, and I was blown away. I really want to go again next year. I think it was amazing. Everyone there was so sweet and like.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is the hot drop, but like, or hot take or whatever, but like we have been invited back, so we're going one way or another next year.
I'm so excited. But yeah, so hopefully I'll finish a lot more games by then, and yeah, that's why I was actually so set on wanting to play it on the 3DS, was because I saw them playing it on the 3DS for the first time, and I was like, I want to play it like that.
Initially, I really wanted you to play like the original code, like literally a Nintendo 64 controller with a Nintendo 64 and the whole thing, just so you could really get the whole experience. But I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, well, wait a second, there's a reason that the essentially it's Ocarina of Time 3D, but it's kind of Ocarina of Time HD-ish is really kind of what it is. It's really, if you play it in 2D, it's really Ocarina of Time just with some improved graphics and slightly improved gameplay mechanics. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? I feel like if you play Ocarina of Time 3D, you've played Ocarina of Time. And so I think that I didn't want to like say, no, you have to play original code. But and I'll play the original code and we'll take it from there.
I'll play on what is it, on a GameCube, a Game Boy,
well, it's on 64? The Nintendo. It's on your Switch right now for the Nintendo Switch Online stuff.
Yeah, what is the original console it came out on?
Oh, Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64. Sorry, I will play something on a 64 at some point. I mean, I've never played anything.
I am very excited about this relationship we're forming of you being a new Zelda fan and someone who's literally 20 years younger than me. But my heart broke a little bit just now when you didn't know it was a Nintendo 64.
Well, I know what a Nintendo 64 is, and I have seen what it looks like because of Zelda Dungeon, going to Zelda Dungeon and seeing what that console looks like. And I would love to play something on it someday.
I love that.
I saw a lot of consoles and a lot of games for my first time there. It was cool.
I repeat, like, it's just so, I get excited right now when I hear that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she going to think when she actually like holds a Nintendo 64, or actually, you know what I mean, like clicks a cartridge into a Super Nintendo to play Link's Awakening or Link to the Past or something. But I digress. Very cool. All right, so monsters.
It's spooky, scary time.
I think I went kind of hardcore. I don't know.
I didn't.
Not a lot of bosses. I found not a lot of bosses in my list.
Actually, yeah, me too. I didn't have too many bosses.
Because most of the bosses, there's a lot of bosses that are monster-esque.
Yeah.
But I kind of found myself going other directions here.
I want to start off with, what would you specifically describe as what a monster would be?
Yeah, thank you. I initially, so what's the difference between a baddie and a monster? And it's debatable, and I don't know if there is like a clear line, obviously, and I don't know if there has to be a clear line.
Yeah.
But for me, a baddie is any kind of opposition that you encounter that whatever.
I would also say I wouldn't count a monster as something human, so I wouldn't say like a Yiga would count.
I agree completely. And so for me, I guess a monster is it pursues you with relentless effort and borderline mindless effort. And is it scary?
Yeah, I would also like to say, I like to think of, obviously the bosses can count, but when I was thinking more in the lines of, what is something that you can find a lot of in the world? So
what is something that you can find a lot of?
Yeah, like a lot of variations and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
There's a few on my list that break that, where like I don't like their bosses. They're like kind of one of a kind type characters, but a lot of mine are. Again, I'm blanking on words today, but you can find a lot of variations of them, basically.
I have. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm writing a new one in as we talk. I'm going to start with one. I'm going to start off strong.
Okay. Yeah.
I think everyone would agree with me. Not that they need to. I just am so confident in this one. I'm almost lampshading it because I think it's so obvious. But I think let's start this episode off strong, and let's talk about Dead Hand.
Dead Hand.
Are you familiar? Maybe only through the culture, because you certainly haven't played against Dead Hand yet.
I have played against Gloom Hands.
Okay, which are slightly inspired by Dead Hand.
I was going to say, I know they were inspired.
This is some of the fun of this. This is so cool. So, and I'm going to ask you, do you know who or what Dead Hand is? It's totally okay if you say no.
I'm going to be honest, when you first mentioned it, I thought you were talking about the little hand guy that pops up out of the toilet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I think we still don't really know whose hand that is. I mean, it's based on like a fairy tale of a ghost or whatever. But no, Dead Hand is it's a mini boss of the Shadow Temple of Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And I can't wait for you to encounter Dead Hand. I hope it's on a dark, stormy night, because you're going to be so spooked. I should probably bring up a graphic. I'll bring it up on break. Dead Hand is. Are you going to search it while I talk?
Yep, I'm going to search it while you're talking to me.
Dead Hand Ocarina of Time, because Dead Hand is also other things on the internet.
Okay.
Dead Hand is a creature whose hands have been cut off down at the bottom of the Shadow Temple, and has 6 to 8 spiritual hands that come out of the ground and grab Link.
Oh, that's horrific.
After those hands grab Link, Dead Hand disconnects its jaw to eat Link's face. Yes.
You listeners at home can't see the face I'm making. You guys probably can, but this thing is awful.
Are you looking at the in-game graphics or the?
I was looking.
Yeah, sure, artist renditions, but still,
no.
that works.
I was looking at this one.
That's in-game. Yep.
Yeah, that's. Ugh. I don't like the face.
This is back when this is an Ocarina of Time where there's, I think it could be perceived. I want to keep this family friendly, but it could be perceived that this character is spattered with blood and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like characters like that are even scarier with like low poly. Oh, here I can.
No, I was going to just show you another picture. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's scarier with like the low poly graphics almost, because it leaves more to the imagination.
I think it does. And one thing, so this is so funny because I usually do take digital notes, and I usually copy paste photos over to show. Maybe I'll go back to digital notes. I just wanted to use my Zelda book.
No, yeah, that's fair.
So in gameplay, this is not the perfect representation, but hands come up. Dead hands are disconnected, and then they come up out of the ground and they grab Link.
That's so scary.
And after they do that, Dead Hand here's another, I guess, representation, but Dead Hand then literally will disconnect its jaw and come at Link and start chomping on him if you can't get away in time.
Yeah, I think that's what's throwing me off, like in a good way, like in a creepy way, about his character, is that because he is so like low poly, his mouth looks way more detailed.
They put some effort on those teeth.
The teeth is way more detailed.
I know. I actually don't know what Dead Hand looks like in the 3D remake, so we'll see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's in the Shadow Temple. It is the mini boss. And I'll leave it at that, because now I'm looking forward to you being spooked by him.
Yeah, no, that's terrifying. I'm gonna just come out and say I took a lot of a lighter look at my characters, but
I think this is the scariest one. I kind of started off strong.
Okay, I will do probably what my scariest one is.
Okay, let's try it.
And it's also from Skyward Sword that I've been playing.
Okay, keep going. Of course, keep going.
Yeah.
I give you permission.
No, I'm talking about the imprisoned. That guy
really
scared me. Yeah, I thought he was creepy. And it also took me a second to kind of figure out how he worked.
Yeah.
But I think it was they put you under a time constraint for him, and he's really big. And it's also a thing where like his graphics almost look different than the other world around him, and so like I don't know,
all the little weird scales and stuff.
Yeah,
I do think I would completely. It's not a competition of what's spooky or scary. I think the imprisoned is a monster. It is pursuing Link with relentless pursuit. The situation of it going up that spiral, terrifying.
Yeah. No, and I haven't finished playing Skyward. I know he comes back a few times.
Oh, you've only done the imprisoned once so far?
I've only done him. I might have done him twice now.
Okay.
I've at least done him once. I might have done it twice, but so I don't know fully if anything all about the imprisoned, but just from what I know right now, he's up on my list.
I agree. I always get I get scared when they have to do the imprisoned things, only because it is that time constraint of going up the spiral and it's the ticking clock.
I think he's cool too. I think the whole situation with him is cool.
That is, I'm so appreciative of that opinion because I've never heard anyone say that about the imprisoned before.
That they like him?
Yeah, usually people are like, "Oh, this thing again," and or his weird bubble, jelly bean toes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's not hard. He's not necessarily hard or like terrifying, I guess. I don't know.
You don't have to defend this. I appreciate your sentiment.
A lot of the ones on my list aren't necessarily the hardest things to fight or the scariest things in the world. They just hold a special place in my heart. And the imprisoned is kind of like the first, I would say, one of the first big bads you fight in Skyward. And so that was like the moment when I was playing the game and I was like, this is a cool game.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, I will say that first time with the imprisoned, I got kind of the cold sweats a little bit. Your palms start sweating because you're trying to figure out what to do and all of that.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out, but
cool. Well, you're gonna figure out. You're gonna find actually your imprisoned monster might connect with one of mine, and I don't know if I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna mark this. Let's. I do have one kind of like boss that I considered a monster. And like, the expression, you're a monster. Like, someone saying that, meaning that like, are we discussing a creature that just is completely sociopathic and doesn't value life or the relationships that it has around it or anything like that. And borderline even takes advantage of them. I would have to include Majora. Not Majora's Mask, but Majora.
Okay.
And so Majora from Majora's Mask is finally realized at the end of the game, this big tentacly kind of thing. But even though it's technically a little bit of a boss battle and it's intense and all of that, the reason I decided to include Majora as a monster is because really the Majora through the mask is manipulating people and taking advantage of Skull Kid the whole time through the game. And they're a psychological monster, in my opinion.
No, I think that's
I know you haven't played Majora's Mask.
I was going to say, I haven't played Majora's Mask, so I can't speak too much to it, but a monster's a monster, no matter what way you look at it. So I think that qualifies.
Majora, through the mask, preys on Skull Kid, preys on Skull Kid's insecurities, and turns Skull Kid into enacting like a monster.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I always thought Skull Kid and Majora were one. So that's fascinating.
A lot of people do. But no, technically that mask can be taken off and put on different people. And at the end of the game, Skull Kid is able to take the mask off, which is also a very special moment.
That's exciting. I'm excited to play it.
Cool.
I have it on my. It was actually. No, it wasn't my first. Breath of the Wild, I think, was the first one I owned. But I did end up getting Majora's Mask, I think, not long after on my 3DS. I just haven't played it.
Oh, Majora's Mask 3D.
Yeah, I have Majora's Mask 3D. I remember I tried playing it once when I was younger. I am pretty sure this was after I played Breath of the Wild. And I ended up not playing much of it just because it freaked me out that there was no save mechanic that I found. And I was at an age where I was 12 or 13. And so I was like, well, I'm playing, but my mom's calling me for dinner.
Right.
So I can't save, but she's going to get mad. So I ended up just not really playing much of it.
And even in Majora's Mask 3D, they included additional save points for that fact. But in the early days, when you play original code Majora's Mask,
I heard there's none.
There's none, or you can save anytime you want. But in doing it, you have to play the Song of Time, or the Song of Time in reverse or something like that. you play it. I think it is just normal Song of Time. You are able to save your game, but it warps you back to the beginning of the 3 days. So every time I was playing Majora's Mask when I was literally in college. Actually, what year are you right now? 3rd, 4th?
Yeah, I'm a senior.
Senior. So I think I was my second. I was a sophomore when in school when Majora's Mask came out, but probably pretty close to your age, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like playing in my dorm, and then have to go to class, and I'd be like, "Well, I'm warping back," and you just did it because that's just how games worked back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really scared me when I first started playing it because, like I said, I grew up with like games where okay, we have to go, so let me just hit the options button, go to settings,
I tell you
save, close out.
I'm going to start a light campaign for you to play Majora's Mask, a quote unquote original code, but on the Nintendo Switch online service.
Okay.
Because at least then you can do save states anytime you want.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. You can do out of game save states. You can still do in game saves,
mm-hmm.
and I mean, honestly, you can do that for Ocarina of Time as well. But also on Ocarina, you can save anytime you want. So let's just consider maybe a year or two from now when we do Majora's Mask, that it's played that way or something.
That's fine. Yeah, cool. I don't mind that.
Awesome. I actually think maybe if it's okay, I think we should go to break.
Yeah, we can go to break. That's fine.
Cool.
Okay, so I forgot I'm kind of leading the charge on this one.
I know. I didn't know how to bring it up.
No, it's all good. All right, we're going to go to break, and then we'll talk about some more monsters when we get back. Bye-bye.
Hello there, listeners. David here. You know, the whole team at Another Zelda Podcast appreciates every bit of support our listeners give. And if you'd like to enjoy some extra content, we invite you to consider becoming a patron through our Patreon page. Sword members get a thank you on our website, as well as monthly digital wallpapers for all your devices, and the opportunity to participate in an annual meetup on Discord with the AZP team. White Sword members will get everything the Sword tier gets, and also they'll get access to episodes a week early, as well as bonus episodes that we record specifically for Patreon. A new thing we're doing is monthly Discord meetups where we'll play trivia and hang out with you as well. Lastly, and this is our most popular tier, actually, the Magical Sword level, which includes, of course, everything from the previous 2 levels, but also gives supporters access to behind-the-scenes videos that we produce and behind-the-scenes extended video versions of every episode. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get back to the show. And if you're already on Patreon, we are so grateful that you're helping us keep Another Zelda Podcast vibrant.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from The Studio Demands It,
a bi-weekly screenwriting podcast where every episode we conceptualize and craft an entire screenplay based on the demands of one of our listeners acting as a studio.
From hypothetical sequels of popular franchises,
to reboots or reimaginings of films that deserve a fresh chance,
to hypothetical films that simply must be brought into existence.
Join the creative process over at studiodemandsit.com. Hope to see you there. Well, I can't see us.
Hope to hear them there?
Hope to hear us there.
Yep.
Hi everybody, David here. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about Another Zelda Podcast's brand new merch store. Yes, we've opened up the store to celebrate the beginning of Season 5. In fact, I'd like to tell you about our Another Zelda Podcast logo t-shirt. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's our logo on a classic t-shirt, but yeah, it does look pretty neat, especially on the 20 different shirt colors that you can select. All of the staple colors like red and green and black are there, but there's also asphalt, military green, slate, royal heather. I'm not joking, that's one of the color selections. So if you're interested in displaying your Another Zelda Podcast fandom, head on over to our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, and click on the merch tab in our main menu right up on the top of the screen there. All right, let's get back to the show.
And we're back for another Zelda podcast. And yeah,
cool.
I'm still here with you, David.
Hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
Wait, who are you people? No,
we're just gonna keep talking about monsters, favorite monsters.
I think I have 6 or 7 left. Where are you at?
Yeah, I have about 6 left.
Cool.
Yeah, no particular order. You just talked about Majora.
So
yeah. I will hop in with my next one. And I'm just going to keep it dark for now, and then I'll get lighter as we get closer to the end.
Tis the season.
So I'm going to talk about, I would personally consider them a mob-type monster because they do have different variations, and that's Phantom Ganon in Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow.
Because technically there are 4 different versions that you can come across and fight.
Which I have not come across, but I'm aware.
Oh, really? Are you still playing through Tears?
Oh, I'm only like 50 hours in.
Oh, okay.
Still. I mean, I play Tears of the Kingdom for about an hour once every 4 days.
That's okay.
I'm too busy making podcasts, Kady.
That's no problem. I just wasn't sure where you were at.
Yeah. No, well, honestly, specifically right now, I have gone over to Gerudo Town and I'm navigating like I found a triangle, let's just say that. Perhaps a triangle of light. And so I'm kind of doing those kinds of things right now. And I'm having a blast. But genuinely only playing about an hour or two every couple days. And I'm loving it.
Yeah. So with the Phantom Ganons, I believe you might be able to find them other ways, but I specifically would find them. You would defeat the Gloom Hands. They would sprout. And there were 4 different versions. See if I can remember off the top of my head. There was one with the sword, one with the bow, one with the spear, I want to say.
Oh, interesting.
And then I cannot remember what the 4th one was. It was probably like a hammer or something.
Okay, so they're all physical weapons?
Yeah.
It's not like Phantom Ganon was like shooting out energy or anything?
No, they all have their own weapons. And that was what was fun about them is you had to find, depending on which Ganon you came across, you had to fight them different ways. Like,
okay.
With the swords, it was better to stay far from their reach, so they had to come to you. The bows, you had to stay close up in their business, otherwise they could get a good shot on you. Things like that.
I just hiccuped. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. So I think the Phantom Ganons were a cool addition, and they were scary. I remember, the Gloom Hands are terrifying, but then the first time you defeat a Gloom Hand, you're like, oh my god, I did it! I finally accomplished this. And then you just see sprouting out of the ground as a Ganon, and then you're like, I just lost all of my health trying to beat the Gloom Hands, and now I have to fight a Ganon.
Yeah.
And then there was that experience slope of you think, okay, I finally figured out how to beat Sword Ganon. Perfect. Go defeat the Gloom Hands. Why does this one have a bow?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was really cool.
I accidentally saw something online. I'm not steep on spoilers. I don't care if I get spoiled a little bit. That's perfectly fine. But I saw something online where I saw Phantom Ganon come out of the Gloom Hands, and I was already avoiding the Gloom Hands like the plague. And so then I was like, well, I'm never touching a Gloom Hand.
Yeah, they're terrifying. And that's the thing too. Ganons hurt. They hit hard, and that's...
Oh, really?
That's real, where it's the Gloom Hands are tough. And so then when you go against a Ganon, you have maybe 3 chances to get hits in before you die.
Otherwise you're out, no matter what.
Yeah.
Interesting. So previous versions of Phantom Ganons, or Phantom Ganondorfs, or whatever you want to call them, usually I think it happens 3 times. I think it happens in Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker for sure, maybe, and a little kind of in Twilight Princess, but he's possessing Zelda. But usually there's this what I call volleyball mechanic or table tennis mechanic, where he shoots. The Phantom Ganons specifically are known for shooting energy out, and you're supposed to kind of time it and bat the thing back with your sword. It sounds like that's not a thing with these Phantom Ganons at all.
I mean, it's been a while since I've played, so there might be a little bit of it, but a lot of it is they each have their own unique attacks specific to their weapon. So
I mean, I love that.
Yeah, so with the Sword Ganon, it might be they do a spinning attack, or then they have a rush slash attack and things like that, where you have to time your dodges and your parries and everything and kind of learn their moveset. I don't want to say it's Dark Souls, because it's not, but also it's kind of in that sense.
Okay, cool. Love it. I'm gonna get weird and do a monster that's a nice monster, not really a monster. And so maybe it's debatable that this might... I think it fits as monster. I'd like to talk a little bit about Dimitri from Oracle of Ages.
Okay.
And Seasons, technically. Dimitri is a Dodongo that Link befriends through the act of a magic flute, which is often how Link communicates with things. And you use Dimitri to solve a couple puzzles in both games, and Dimitri's skill set is that he can swim up waterfalls and move around a little bit, eat some things. And one thing that's kind of interesting in Oracle of Seasons, at least, when Link has the power glove on, or the power bracelet or whatever, he can pick up Dodongos and throw them. In fact, that's a mechanic that he has to use with one of the bosses. And so you can actually then pick up Dimitri and toss him around and try to get up to higher levels. And Dimitri's just a nice little dinosaur or Dodongo. I was
going to say, I just looked up what Dodongos and Dimitri look like, and that's so cute.
He's a rideable character in the game, and I guess he's technically a monster, but a bit like the It's a Secret to Everybody, Bokoblin or Moblin in The Legend of Zelda, he's a nice one.
Oh, that's so sweet. That sounds cute.
So I thought, like, what? Maybe there are some other ways to think of monsters too, as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think, yeah, everyone can define monsters differently. I think that can count still. It's not human.
Well, then it's because it's semantics of like, well, how are we defining a monster? Because then is his classification a monster? Because the dongos are monsters or whatever, you know. But I thought, well, let's try to throw a nice one in there.
Yeah, let's not get too deep and heavy with it. And talking about not getting too deep and heavy, I'm going to do one that's more silly.
Okay.
And that's the Hinox. I think they're silly.
Whoa, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, at least Breath of the Wild, Hinoxes, I don't really know much about them from other games, but I think they're really goofy.
What's the Hinox? That's why I'm hesitating.
They're the big guys
the Cyclops guys.
They're the Cyclops guys.
Oh, sure. Oh my gosh, they're in like so many Zelda games. They were in our Cyclops episode. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've said Hinox, and that's probably wrong, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, I have no idea how it's
Hinox.
pronounced.
I think I like Hinox a lot.
I've always pronounced it Hinox.
They're monsters.
Yeah, I remember being like taken aback and kind of scared of them when I first came across them in Breath of the Wild because they are huge and you find them sleeping and whatever. You don't want to disturb them. But then, like, once you kind of realize that all you got to do is hit him in the eye and dodge him, it's pretty funny.
Well, in the early parts of the game, that's one of the first times. Besides, like, you know, that's kind of what I remember that being for me. Like the first time you encounter a sizable enemy out there, and you don't have a lot of items and stuff. You're not powered up much when you see some of your first Hinoxi. I'm not sure what the plural is. But it's terrifying the first couple times.
Yeah, and there's a specific side quest in Breath of the Wild where like you have to defeat like 3, and they're like, I think they're like a family, but each one is like a stronger one.
Oh no!
Yeah,
taking out a family.
But also I thought it was really funny. I thought it was funny going after these 3 guys because like each one you find, they all are kind of doing their own thing, and a lot of times when you come across a Hinox, they're just sleeping. Like, it's hard to really bother a Hinox, I feel. They're just goofy oafs, and then they kind of added a spin on that with tears where like I think if like you hit them in the ankle and stuff, they would just like flop down on the ground.
Oh, really?
Like, they have like a harness or like a necklace of weapons that you can get from them, and they're so fun. They're goofy.
Like it.
I love their music too.
I think their debut, I could be wrong, I think their debut was in A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo, because they're all over the Dark World in Super Nintendo.
Okay.
And they look a little different. They look like almost like wrestlers, but it's kind of those 1990 not graphics but drawing style, you know. I've actually pleased that in Breath of the Wild they had them look a little bit closer to the Moblins and the Bokoblins and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. I think that's something that Breath and Tears did really well, is that a lot of the monsters feel connected in a way that you could see how, like, not talking like genetics and evolution, but also you could see how like they could have all derived from each other at one point.
Yeah, no, I think they put a lot of thought into that, and I think it's great. I love that about Breath of the Wild and Tears. I'm going to actually kind of cue off that, and I'm going to stick with one that I think in hindsight I probably would have taken off my list, but as I was building my list early on, it's literally at the top here of my little cloud of names. I did have Bokoblins on here because they're just in every single Zelda game, you know what I mean? And you almost have to include them as this like classic staple of monsters or baddies.
I was going to say, back when I thought we were doing a top 10, Bokoblins were number 1 on my list.
Okay.
I love Bokoblins so much.
The reason I almost said I'd take it out of my cloud here, off my list, is because at a certain point, at least in Breath of the Wild, they're almost becoming so dynamic that, like, there was a time where Zoras in Zelda games, Zoras were the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then they kind of, you know, I know the conversation of release order and timeline order changes what I'm about to say a little bit, but for you know, let's just say eventually the Zoras were did something just hit me?
Yeah, what was that? It was like a stink bug.
I think it's a little moth just flew into the studio. Okay, we'll just let that be for now. I think maybe it came in through the screen or something.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, cool. Anyway, I was like, did I imagine that, or did something like it hit my hand?
Your reaction was like, what?
It flew in. I don't know where it came from. It probably snuck through like one of the screens in one of the windows. But anyway, weirdly, it's not moving right now. Do you see it on the ground?
Yeah.
This is like, are the alien invasion beginning on Earth?
Is that it?
Kady, it's not moving.
It hit it and died.
I mean, maybe that's not it.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
It flew out of the air, right? It flew out of the air and like hit me.
It absolutely hit your mic, yeah.
And my hand, and I think that's it, but that doesn't look like an ant. I don't know what.
I thought it was a stink bug at first. I'm not gonna lie.
Really? Well, maybe it's down here.
I have no idea. I'm trying to find it.
Well, we'll keep the episode going.
Anyway.
Maybe that's not it. I don't see any evidence of anything, but okay. Anyways, yeah. My goodness, attack from the sky here. So bokoblins, we were talking about them, and I feel like if there were any kind of race or species or however you want to determine them, I feel like the next creature, even the Deku, kind of got cultured up and ramped up in Majora's Mask and became quote unquote nice or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Basically what happens is, oh, hey, here's maybe something that helps define a monster. Maybe monsters don't necessarily have, maybe they haven't evolved or collectively gotten intelligent enough to create certain
society.
Yeah, like a society, right? And yeah, fine. We are, like, okay, there's the mega bokoblins in Tears of the Kingdom, the little guys following them. Well, I guess this speaks to my point.
Yeah, they're starting to evolve.
I feel like they're right on that cusp where they could just be a night.
Yeah.
They could be like, this won't happen, but they could be the next species or whatever that could be okay.
I would even argue that there would be a possibility, not that they would become good or anything, but there was a lot of times when Breath first came out and you can get like the bokoblin mask and you can just chill with the bokoblins. Everyone was like, I want to just hang out with these guys. I want to like see what they're up to. So I could see in a future game being able to have that opportunity of they're not good, but you can go and see like you can like live with them and sneak in, kind of like how you do with the Yiga clan in Tears, where you can like sneak into their little like place and see what's going on. And I honestly, that's why bokoblins are the top of my list, like my favorite ones, because one, they're adorable. First off, I'm just gonna get that out of the way. They're adorable. I think the way they move around in Breath always remind me of red pandas because they like have their arms up and they like waddle at you. So I think that's really cute. And then also when we were talking in our previous episode together, they specifically made the bokoblins in Breath and Tears first, and it was made. Sorry.
Are you okay? Are you seeing this right now? He's eating it.
I was like, I wasn't sure what he was doing.
The thing that flew in and got me, my cat is eating right now. Well, he's playing with it at least and licked it. I'm a little spooked.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
So they made the bokoblins first, and because of that, they wanted to give them a lot of character and personality. And they did that in the sense that, like, they said, like, oh, you can just, like, stand up from afar and watch them, and you can see they have all these different interactions they do with each other. They have different sounds, like they're talking. They might be, like, fighting with each other, or they're running away from bees in the distance, and it's just, I think that's why I latched onto them when I first started playing the game instantly. I was like, these guys are hilarious. They're just silly little dudes.
I think the bokoblins are great, and in our previous episode, we had a listener feedback that spoke to that Studio Demanded episode that was called Zelda 3000. And I talked about it plenty on the previous episode, but obviously we recorded that episode a year ago, so TC and I didn't know that you and I'd be having this conversation right now back then. But in that game that we were making, we decided to like society up one species, and it ended up being the bokoblins.
I think it's just... It seems like the most natural progression because you were saying in Tears they end up having the big boys.
They were kind of like I'm so sorry. Yes.
No, please.
They were kind of the wheelers and dealers in our game. They were the ones like kind of running the underground a little bit.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing because they ended up having big fortresses and stuff that they were kidnapping people.
Yeah.
And they had like their own like supplies in like a pile, and they had the people in cages, and then they had the fire, and this guy was like the leader. So, and then they end up introducing horoblins, which were like the underground versions of them. So it's getting to the point where it feels like they are evolving and expanding out more and more and more and more to like their own variations until eventually I think it would be a logical thing where they would end up having this whole society of different versions of them.
And I just realized something else in Zelda games. Once a species is, I'll just say considered friendly, even though it's a lot more complicated than that, considered friendly, they usually start speaking too, by the way. Like speaking in whatever the Hylian English is or whatever, right? And so then we would need. Well, no, because moblins are it's a secret to everybody. Moblins speak in the original Legend of Zelda, but I don't want to get too wrapped up in this.
Yeah,
I think the bokoblins that we know in Breath of the Wild, and by extension some of the other classic Zelda
that's
games.
That's the thing too. Moblins are also like a version of bokoblins. So there's 4 or 5 versions of bokoblins now.
Yeah, that ends with oblin.
Yeah,
right. Whatever ends with oblin.
Oh, I love bokoblins. I could talk about them all day. I think they're so cool.
Well, I appreciate that. That's cool. I'll keep them on the list. The only reason I brought them off is because I was like, oh, maybe they've been so well realized that they're starting to get out of that monster territory and become just another race in society or whatever.
Yeah,
they're I think they're a species. I think that's how Zelda games work.
Yeah, they're becoming a self-actualized species of monster.
Yeah, love it. Oh, cool. Well said. Love it. All right, what else you got?
Oh yeah, I will do my next one, which I'm gonna say is Gyptos.
I've got that here. Yep.
Gyptos. I'm sure you probably know them from other games because I found out through Zelda Dungeon when I went that Gyptos are not new to Tears and that they are from other games. Which I kind of thought that when I first played, when I was first playing through, I was like, oh, these new guys are from different games. But then I also thought that about like the Horoblins, and then I was told, oh no, that's Tears is the first time with those.
The Horoblins actually are new to Tears.
Yeah, so I thought all of them were from previous games, but I digress.
Yeah.
Any point, the Gyptos were genuinely kind of creepy, and I thought that was cool to see in Breath, in Tears, because not too much really threw me in Breath or Tears, and Tears more so when they started introducing a lot of the darker mechanics of Ganon. But yeah, I like the mechanic of the Gyptos a lot too, with the electricity being what affects them.
Yeah.
I don't know, because that's the first enemy I faced in Zelda where it wasn't just to go up and hit him as hard as you can.
Absolutely. And the Gyptos are adjacent to the Re-Dead, which I definitely have on my list here, which is Re-Dead are in Ocarina of Time. They're kind of weirdly terrifying in Wind Waker. And I think for me, the Gyptos are an extension of the Re-Dead. And I feel like if we're having this conversation about the Gypto, we're kind of having this conversation about all of these.
Yeah.
Because you saw some of the Re-Dead in Ocarina when they were playing it, I think, at Zelda Dungeon. Didn't you see the weird, like,
yeah,
mummies? They
I
did. Go, chomp, chomp, chomp.
Uh-huh.
I feel that the Gypto in Tears of the Kingdom are referencing the Re-Dead in Ocarina.
Absolutely. I think so, too. Because I was watching them play that, and I was like, is that Gyptos? And they're like, oh no, those are Re-Dead. I was like, what's the difference? So like, they're kind of the same thing.
They're kind of the same
thing.
Yeah. And then in Wind Waker, they like have ears and earrings and stuff, but they're terrifying because they have huge mouths and they come and they try to chomp on Link and stuff like that. And then the Gyptos in Twilight Princess are perfectly spooky because Twilight Princess is probably the spookiest.
Yeah.
Aesthetically spookiest game out there. The one that like where the spiders actually look like spiders, you could say, you know?
Yeah.
And the mummies actually look like mummies. But and the Gypto actually look like Gypto. All right, I'll stop. But yeah, so anyways, I've actually, to that point, I've only recently experienced the Gypto because I am in the Gerudo lands right now in Tears of the Kingdom. And I was really excited to see them, but also like, okay, I know to stay away.
Yeah, I mean, I was never one to really carry around scepters or anything, and when I was playing Breath, because I was like, I don't really need to like freeze this person, but that started making me carry around the lightning ones a lot.
Fascinating.
And I think the way that the Gyptos were introduced in Tears was cool, and I think that's why it made me kind of latch on.
How are they introduced? Because I've only just experienced them in the world.
Yeah,
is that one of the cut scenes or something?
Yeah, so I know you say.
Well,
you
I mean,
don't
I've
really
seen the
care
trailer
about
where he's like,
but...
"Rise, my children," and then you see all the Gyptos and the things
No.
It's not that. Okay.
So it's in a story. So
it's okay. Tell me.
Okay, it is okay. So when you go to find Riju, the whole thing is they're being attacked by Gyptos, and so you have to basically man an army. So you get to choose there's 3 entrances. You get to choose what soldiers go to which places. You basically just
of Gerudo Town.
Okay. You basically get to command the Gerudo army and like raise your like battalion against these Gyptos, and you have to like fight all these different ways and protect Riju and keep them out of Gerudo Town and save all these people. It's so cool.
That sounds awesome.
It's very big management. You have to like figure out what's happening, and I think it's so cool.
Is there a storyline where the Gypto came from? Are they like deceased people? Are they spiritual
they don't really
scarecrows?
I was gonna say they don't really say. They just are like, oh, they come from the hive, and I'm like, what?
The hive. Oof, the hive.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stay equally kind of spooky, and I'm gonna stick with like wall masters and by extension floor masters and technically ceiling masters. But they're the huge hands that come out and grab Link in all of the games, which I kind of thought the gloom hands were an interpretation of wall masters or floor masters technically. I guess they're not called that in Tears of the Kingdom, but in the early 2D games, a wall master would come out of the wall in the original Legend of Zelda, and by extension, the Oracle games and Link's Awakening, all the different games that are just the old 2D games. They would just be just hands, severed from a body, huge hands that come around and they try to grab Link and they bring him back to the beginning of the dungeon.
I remember seeing them when I was watching them speed run through the original Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. Not only are they a nuisance, but they're kind of scary. They look like zombie hands. And then later on, like in Ocarina of Time, they're expressed as hands that like come out of the ground and they're 3D and they like reach at Link and they move around. Sometimes I would call them ceiling masters, but I don't know if that's exactly what they're called. Maybe they are just called floor masters, but sometimes they'll hover in Ocarina. They'll hover above you and drop down on you and grab you. Ooh. But you can't actually really see them up there. The camera, unless you like go into, because remember the camera in Ocarina of Time isn't a full axis camera. You can really only like push a button to have the camera go behind Link. That's how you control it. The only way you can really look around is you go into like a first person mode and look around.
That's creepier.
So you can't move when you do it. So you're looking around and like, oh my gosh, there's a scary hand on the floor, on the ceiling. So what really happens in game in Ocarina is you'll be walking around and you'll see a shadow start to develop below you. And that just means that they're starting to lock in on you. And if you don't move, they drop on you and grab you. Terrifying.
That's creepy.
Wall masters, floor masters. I'm trying to think. They weren't in Breath. They might have been in Skyward, but I'm having a hard time remembering. Definitely also in Wind Waker, but really it's the Ocarina of Time experience that I'm thinking about, which is what referencing every other 2D Zelda game pretty much has these things.
Yeah.
Spooky stuff.
Moving on to my second to last.
Ooh.
I want to talk about one of my favorite things to fight in Tears. I think it's one of the coolest things, and it's the Flux Constructs. They are...
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The big guys you can find in the sky, they're made of a ton of blocks, and I think that they have the most fun fights. Because, once you can kind of figure out how to beat them, and it's whatever, but even when you figure out their mechanics and how to beat them quick and easy, it's still fun. Just going around, I like that they can, like, build themselves up, that they have different, like, movesets and levels depending on, like, how far down on health they go. I think they're cool. And also you get really good loot.
They are cool. I haven't defeated one yet. The only way I did it is I was trying to I realized that you could kind of like use your orange hand to like pull their objects out. And so I was just grabbing and trying to rip them apart. And I kind of like got somewhere, but then they rebuilt themselves and I thought, I'm coming back here later.
So what you have to do is they have like one core, like a core block. And so you have to specifically grab that one and pull it, and the whole thing falls apart. And you attack just that one, and then they'll rebuild.
Cool.
And so you have to use that mechanic, and then also you have to use your recall mechanic, because at one point they'll go into the air, float around like a little ship, throw blocks out on you.
Yes.
You have to hop on the block, recall it, so it goes all the way up, so then you can slam down, fight them, same thing, break apart, and you just keep doing these different... it makes a lot of use of your like special abilities in the game, and I think that's what's cool.
That is cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's
my one critique of how I'm experiencing Tears of the Kingdom right now, which for some reason is not how I experienced Breath of the Wild, but my one critique of how of Tears of the Kingdom based on the way I'm playing it, I should say, is that whenever I get to like a proper baddie, like, or I'll experience them for a few minutes, few seconds, and then because it's all so big, I just go like, I'll just go away from here.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I just kind of never go back to that area.
That's how I was with Gleeoks. I only fought like one or two, and I was like, I've
fought zero of them. It's like, okay, there's the thing. I'll stay away from it and go around.
Yeah, I think the only time I fought one was for like a storyline or like a side quest type thing, and then I was like, there's no need. I think that's the only thing that Tears really kind of falls off at, is that because you can build these insanely powerful weapons with anything, there's not really a need to fight these really big guys to get items. Because it's like, I can just do it without,
My thing has been with Tears is that there's so many places to go. All the Sky Islands, all the Gloom, all of the normal Breath of the Wild land or whatever. There's so much to do that anytime I kind of get a little bit of opposition, I'm not inspired to push through it. And I usually just go, I'll go somewhere else. And that's never happened to me before in a Zelda game.
I think it also... I mean, I can't speak for like, as you said, like some of like the temples and stuff. You're just like,
Oh yeah, water temple. I got up to the water
Yeah.
temple. I saw like the 5 waterfalls. I kind of did one of them, and I was like, I don't know. I'll come back here in a week.
But at least for like the Gleox and the Flux contracts and stuff, they're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and there's not a need to fight them. It's like you can fight them if you want, but you can also just go around them.
One of the, dare I say, strengths of some of the classic 3D games, I'm starting to realize it's just weird. Like the linear ones, sometimes you're in a dungeon and you're like, this is the only way. I only can move forward. I got to figure this out. And I used to think that I didn't like that. And I think I do like the options, but it's almost going full circle with me for Tears. For some reason, not with Breath, as I said a minute ago.
Yeah.
But some reason with Tears, I'm kind of like, well, I'll just go check out a different thing. But maybe it'll. Again, I'm only 50 hours in, and maybe when I'm 100 or 150 hours in, and I've experienced a lot of the little stuff, I'll be more equipped emotionally to maybe do some of these things.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Blizzita. Blizzita's kind of a monster. She's terrifying. Blizzita is one of the Yetis in the snow. Oh, I just forgot the name. Snowheed Mountain or something like that in Twilight Princess. I always get it wrong I always mix it with the Majora's Mask mountain area, snow area, Snowhead and Snow Peak or something like that. But anyway, are you gonna do a little bit of recon for me?
Well, that, and also I wanted to see what Blizzita looks like.
So Blizzita is the female Yeti, and she's possessed by the Twillet things. She's got a bad bug on her.
Snow Peak Ruins.
Snow Peak Ruins, thank you. And then I think Snowhead is in Majora's Mask. In Snow Peak Ruins, Blizzita is possessed by the kind of these like Twillet scarabs that are infecting all these characters. And while she's infected, she is technically a boss battle. She's spooky. Did you see her face?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Yes.
Is it red eyes and the stuff?
I mean, I saw, this.
No, that's not it. I mean, that's her in her normal state. And
I was just seeing, I don't know if it's in the game or if it's just fan art. I was seeing her in like a giant ice thing, and that's what had me like blown away.
So she is when I can't find it. I don't want to do too much Googling on air here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But I mean, me personally, it's gonna take forever. So she has just a super scary face, and she's a little creepy the entire time you're in Snow Peak Ruins. She seems to be sick. Little do you know, she's infected by one of these like Twillet scarab things. And she makes a few weird comments to you, but she seems kind of passive and blasé. And then finally you go up to the top of the ruins, and you find her in her... It's kind of like the observatory room, top room, but she's got a little vanity, and she's kind of looking at herself. And she turns around to speak to you, and her whole head rotates, and it's terrifying with red and like fangs. And
I just found it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can, especially with you saying the head going 360 or 180 or whatever. Yeah, that's out of a horror movie.
It is in that moment, and then you're like, "What am I doing?" And so she is not a monster, but she's being controlled by a monster, and so I just wanted to include her because that
counts.
Like that one stuck with when I did that battle the first time. And technically, the area is not that scary. The environment's kind of like blue and icy and stuff. It's not too scary. But the cutscene where it comes in and her face turns, your heart goes up in that moment, and you feel like you're fighting a monster. And then it's a little scary, and then finally you're able to defeat it. And then she comes back down, and then she's loved by her husband.
Oh, that's nice.
He's very happy that she's back to normal. What else do you have? I think I have like one finale.
Yep.
And that might be it. I've got an honorable mention, the big pose in Twilight Princess. They basically look like spooky Grim Reapers. It's cool because the pose in Twilight Princess look like kind of ghosts, but then there's big pose, and they're legitimately like fading out with white robes, and they come at you with scepters and fingers, and they float towards you and stuff.
That's cool.
And that's all speaking to Twilight Princess graphic style, which is a little bit more spookier and a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I have one last one.
Okay.
And it is I think it counts as a boss. It's a boss / mini boss from Skyward Sword.
Okay.
And it is the Kloktos.
Okay, yeah, Kloktos is spooky, man.
I loved the Kloktos. I think the mechanics of fighting him are super cool because it really gets you to use your whip and like pulling his body parts apart. And that was the thing too. It took me forever to figure out how to beat him because I didn't put 2 and 2 together to start using it.
Sure.
Until I was just trying stuff out, and I was like, oh my god. And so it was such a cool moment. It was a cool fight. And
when you learn to pick up the swords and stuff.
Yeah. It was just, I don't know. I'm still very new to Skyward. And so with that, like the Imprisoned and with the Kloktos, both of those are like pretty early game. So it was one of those moments where I was just like, this game is cool. I wasn't sure what to expect going in, because I'm like, oh, it's an older game. It's not like Breath and whatever. Sure. But I love it. I think
if you're enjoying Skyward Sword, I think you're genuinely going to enjoy like all the rest of them.
Yeah, I think
I'm
apparently
serious.
Because we were talking about how it like performed really poorly.
Yeah.
Which probably because my friends always make jokes that I could watch the worst movie in the world and still think it's great. Yeah. So I find a lot of joy in pretty much everything. So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, Collectors is great. It got kind of this it's monster-esque. It's technically a robot, a machinate. What is it? A mechana or whatever they call them. Where it's all wound up. A mecha. Yeah. There's a lot of different terms for it. We would maybe call it a robot, except that it's not technically. There's no circuitry inside Collectos. Yeah. We would assume, but there also seems to be a little bit of magic doing it, which is like the Legend of Zelda's version of computers is always goopy lights and magic and stuff. Yeah. I always joked in Breath of the Wild that every time you get to a tower, your Sheikah Slate would get a drip of firmware updates. Be like, yeah, you know what I mean? And anyway, so okay, last but not least, I know we're getting towards the end here. I hope that this isn't anticlimactic, but I realized that I needed to include Demise as a monster.
Yeah.
And I know that you haven't encountered Demise in game yet. I know that you're aware of Demise and how Demise fits into the larger Zelda lore. But when you do encounter Demise, I'll say he is a creature that completely embodies what of the things I said about Majora, like Demise is completely focused on his goal, doesn't have much justification, is a monster. He's a monster. Like that's the only way you got to say it that way to make it work. So much so that he vows that he will forever try to wreak havoc on Link and Hyrule and the rest. Well, not necessarily Link specifically, but really Zelda and Hyrule with reckless abandon, with unabashed relentlessness, and even though he's humanoid in form, when you get the close-ups of his face in the cutscenes, when you eventually get there in Skyward Sword, you're like, yeah, that's a flippin' monster, man. He's got like orange glowing eyes and like the whole thing,
I'm very excited to come across him.
The images that I've seen of powered up Ganon in Twilight Princess evoke a lot of Demise, and I think that's not an accident, because technically in the lore, it's debatable, but one could assume that in the lore there's a little bit of the spirit of Demise coming out is what's imbuing Ganon with that power.
I know. As little as I know about the other Zelda games, I have heard that a lot, and it's something that I'm inclined to believe just because I like a good story, and I feel like that makes it a really good story.
Cool. So I included Demise. I feel like we had a spectrum of monsters here, an interpretation of monsters. I love it.
We got some scary ones. We got some funny ones. We got some cute little red panda looking guys.
I think if you're listening to this episode and you've got some ideas about some scary monsters that you've experienced in Zelda games, or you want to speak to that at all, as this episode comes out right now, it is October and all of that, and you can you're welcome to tweet us some of your thoughts on monsters, or if this is on Patreon, you can leave comments. If it's on YouTube, you can leave comments. I guess if it's on Spotify, you can leave comments. Absolutely. Now. The whole thing. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts about some of the monster experiences that you've had, or what you would classify as a monster or not.
Yeah, have a whole debate in the comments. And yeah, that's it for us. David, where can they find you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RaptorPaint. Nice and easy. There it is.
Very easy.
Do you think you can do the outro?
I can do this.
There's no specific way to do it.
I can do this, David.
I love it.
And you can find me at KadyRoberts.com, Kady, or Mind of Kady, spelled the same, on Instagram. And you can find all of our stuff at anotherzeldapodcast.com. We've got a Discord, we got a website, we got an Instagram and a Twitter, and probably more stuff I'm forgetting.
No, I mean, that's pretty close to the YouTube and the whatevers.
And the YouTube
like we used to have a Facebook page, but whatever, We don't have a TikTok yet. Maybe that's something we need to do.
Oh,
was that a cringe?
No, it wasn't. I don't know how we're gonna do a TikTok.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe we just stick to our things. Mostly our things are more about engaging with our audience than it is us pushing stuff out there, to be honest.
That's all right. And that's what the Discord's there for. I love the Discord. I'll talk about it all day, all night. But enough about me trying to plug stuff and trying to get us that sweet, sweet cred. This has been me and David.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, you know what? Honestly, the only way I ever know how to get out of it, I just kind of say like, all right, person across from me, I'll see you next time or something.
All right, person across from me, David. I will indeed see you next time.
I'll see you then as well.
Bye-bye.
There it is.